Dear Punjabis, particularly the youth studying in the higher education at colleges and universities, today I am going to give a talk on the intellectual dishonesty of Punjabi academicians, writers, thinkers, religious clergy, and the souls of Punjabi stratas linked with the multiple other fields. I would discuss this dishonesty vis-a-vis the fundamental issue in Punjab regarding the medium obstruction in education and the Punjabi identity by quoting an example from a renowned academician who is said to be a political scientist. I am hysterically calling the gentleman as a political scientist, as Dr. Saab wants to reinvent wheel by setting aside all scientific theories, facts and figures and ground realities in the case of Punjabi as medium obstruction in Punjab. And the inferences presented by the Dr. Saab are sheerly devoid of any science, and those are only political statements which one may see in the daily newspapers by the semi-literate politicians of Punjab. Anyhow, let me start from the recent history when Punjab was in the very end annexed with the British subjects, when already the rest of the Indian subcontinent and the neighboring states in Punjab like Sindh, Balochistan and the Pathan regions were already subjugated by the British-led Urdu-speaking army. So there was definitely a natural offense in the minds of British as well as their sportive Urdu-speaking army and bureaucracy against Punjab, and they at the same time knew very well that the potential of Punjabi potential should be harnessed. Otherwise, it would give a or emerge as a challenge for their rule. So they did a social engineering in Punjabi society by in two ways. Firstly, they opened new educational institutions in which English was used as a medium of instruction, and at the same time, already those multiple education institutions which were working across the Punjab, and Punjabi was taught in all of them as a medium of instruction. There Punjabi was replaced with the Urdu by hilariously terming it a refined Punjabi. So these two measures were taken just to tame the Punjabi potential. Let me repeat that the educational institutions for the upper classes were established to replace Persian with English, and at the riff-raff level, the rest of the educational institutions which were already working in Punjab, the medium of instruction was replaced or changed with the Urdu by removing Punjabi altogether. And this overnight change of Punjabi vernacular into alien Urdu was vehemently opposed by the then principal of Government College, who laid the foundation of Punjab University as well. I'm talking about Dr. G.W. Letnier, with the strong argument that the standard of education in Punjab was so high and superior than most of the Europe, because here the disciplines like Oriental literature, law, logic, philosophy, medicine, mathematics were taught to the high standards. And he knew that this sudden change would delete their memory by disconnecting from their roots in terms of literature, history, ethos, heroes, everything. So this was simply a sort of memocide of Punjabis. So in this way, they became successful in producing a Punjabi mindset from the institutions like FC College, Government College, Punjab Institute, which was pro-British and which was readily available to work as a tool in the British machinery. However, this little uh, 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 population or the amount of British trained Punjabi mindset was not as much wise as the people in the middle of nowhere. Those people who are based in the far-flung areas, they are believed to be the smartest people in every society, because they are linked with the mother nature most of the time directly, and their creative faculties work more deeper and more broader, in a way that despite the state oppression, they could sprout out of those institutions by using those dormant faculties. One could find the example of Nobel laureates like Rabindranath Tagore in Bengal and Dr. Abdul Salam in Punjab and scores of others. So they belong to the rural regions, and the state oppressive measures, state oppressive tactics couldn't uh, tame their mind, tame their orientation. So they groomed in their own way, and they reached the acme in their own fields. Anyhow, there were rare gems because of the overall the control of state, and the whole society couldn't change because of the oppressive policies of state. But at the same time, the petty bourgeoisie class, which was passed out through the established institutions, state established institutions, was only capable to speak or use or write good English, but they were not as much smart enough to think beyond the given scripts. This class of this trained class of British could only think in the limited domains set for them. So out of their box thinking was like a sin or crime for this class. So if we could find multiple examples of this petty bourgeoisie, which the life of which, if is observed, they imitate their masters, and if they are questioned in a very academic way about their dogmas, they take it as an offense and overlook or snub the questionnaire. It happened in the case of Dr. Ishtiaq Saab, who is supposed to be a political scientist and a professor, who wrote a number of books and taught at LUMS as well. I happened to go through the multiple writings of Dr. Saab, and I found him a very hard-working person who toilsomely gathered the whole information in terms of evidences and proofs, in terms of references, even the first-hand information, first-hand accounts, finally to substantiate his claims. Because in any research work, the references matter a lot, and with the help of those references, one could discuss and critically discuss the whole subject in such a scientific way, by taking in account all the ground realities, historical facts, and as I mentioned, the references, particularly the first-hand information, finally to establish his own ideas. In the case of Dr. Saab, I found him a hard worker who could collect those all maximum information and quote them in his work in a very diligent manner. But when it comes to the discussion part, there he badly lacks, because he deduces something quite odd out of the whole uh, authentic proofs and evidences. For instance, he says that he quits Bhagat Singh's struggle with Mumtaz Qadri's story, and declares Bhagat Singh a terrorist. But at the same time, one could find that the very Dr. Ishtaq Saab boasts about his links with MQM.
बाद में वो खाकसार हो गए। लेकिन जब मैं बड़ा हुआ और यूनिवर्सिटी में गया तो मेरे अपने प्रोफेसर्स की वजह से मैं मार्क्सिज्म की तरफ आया और बाद में एमक्यूएम के साथ भी मैं रहा until I left for स्वीडन। स्वीडन में आके मुझे मौका मिला पढ़ने का और दुनिया को देखने का, स्वीडिश मॉडल को और ये स्कैंडिनेवियन वेलफेयर स्टेट को। तो अब मैं अपने आप को लेफ्ट सोशल डेमोक्रेट कहता हूँ। सो दैट्स माय इंटेलेक्चुअल जर्नी यार। आदमी हमेशा सीखता रहे और वही आदमी पोजीशन ले जो वो समझता है कि उसके ज़मीर के मुताबिक है। ठीक है, ये आप उसमें ऐड कर दें।
सर, पर वैसे अर्ली अल्ताफ हुसैन की मैं अगर स्पीचें सुनूं, ये तो बिल्कुल सारी बातें सही कर रहे हैं, तो ये हुआ क्या उनको बाद में?
अब ये नहीं मुझे पता क्या हुआ। अल्ताफ हुसैन की भी स्पीचेस, वो पढ़ा लिखा आदमी था। वो देखो बेताशा डिफिकल्टीज हो जाती हैं। उनको भी तो ये सारे ले गए ना, जिया और ये वो उनकी रेडिकलाइज कर दिया।
शुरू की तो बातें सही थी सारी उनकी, ही वाज क्वाइट सेक्युलर।
ठीक है।
Now, if a racist terrorist organization whose played a havoc in the capital of Sindh and embarked upon a spree of targeted killing of thousands of people. So this is nothing short of an absurdity that if a gentleman, paints a legitimate struggle as something like terrorism, but at the same time puts his own whole weight in the credit of the real terrorists, in favor of real terrorists. The reason behind is the same mindset which was passed out of the Urdu speaking and British led educational institutions and was mesmerized with the red light areas language and culture of Lucknow. And the same blunder Dr. Saab does when he sports Urdu as a medium of instruction in Punjab, by completely overlooking the ground realities and the latest developments happened through the introduction of 18th Amendment in the Constitution of Pakistan, in which the all constituent entities, I mean the provinces, were completely given the autonomy as far as their finances, their politics, their education, and their other matters are concerned. So, Sindh, we know that after 71 Bengal epic, Sindhi was introduced in Sindh, though besides Urdu, Sindhi couldn't flourish as it should have been, and it couldn't become the compulsion of non-Sindhis, particularly Urdu speaking, to own Sindhi in its literal spirit. Anyhow, Sindhi was made medium of the education and medium of instruction, and as an official language in Sindh by giving the equal room to Urdu. And after 18th Amendment, the other two provinces like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan, they also introduced, they enacted laws by doing legislation, and besides Pashto in Pashtunkhwa and Balochi in Balochistan, scores of other languages were given the same level playing field for the kids to select as one of the compulsory subjects in their primary levels. At the same time, Dr. Saab is completely oblivion towards the Supreme Court and Lahore High Court order for the Punjab governments to do the same on the pattern of other provinces in pursuance of the constitutional demands. And at the same time, Dr. Saab also avoids the facts and figures about the four languages, the official status of four languages bill in the Standing Committee of Senate, which passed it, and those the four provinces, the representative four languages, Pashto, Balochi, Sindhi, and Punjabi bill was passed by the Law and Justice Committee of Senate. Presented by the Law and Justice Committee of Senate, and it was passed a year ago, and it is in the pipeline. And it is an effort by all the political parties to give equal status to these languages besides Urdu on federation level, on national level. So by setting aside all these ground realities and the practical impossibilities, like the enforced usage of Urdu in in Punjab, particularly in the government departments and in educational institutions, has not enabled Punjabi masses yet to get grasp on this language. I would quote here some of the examples, and I would challenge Dr. Saab and other protagonists of Urdu to go through it and check it out, that even the FIRs written in the police stations and the documents with the terms of fard or the land revenue departments, the letters which are given, documents which are given to the owners of any land, those are available in Urdu. That typical Urdu, which even common, not to speak of common people, but even the people who claim themselves, who use this language at their home and who claim themselves to be very good at this language, they can't understand it. They even can't they can't even properly read it, not to speak of understanding and sharing the whole content. So I would like to quote here even the translation of a book of Dr. Saab, his book with the name of Punjab, Bloodied, Partitioned and Cleansed, was translated by some Wasim Bhatt Saab, and its title is in Urdu is it is given Punjab ka Batwara Ek Almiya Hazar Dastan. Now Dastan is completely an inappropriate translation of the subject and the whole material of the book, because whatever happened in Punjab, the extensive research of Dr. Ishtiaq clearly reflects that that was happened. In fact, in reality, that was not some myth. Those were not some myths. So here the term Dastan, it is defined in an article. I found it, and I would like to share it as well. It was defined by the National Book Foundation in their publication of 2017 March on its page 101. They say, दास्तान से मुराद उर्दू नस्र की अवलीन सिन्फ करार दिया गया है. दास्तान झूठी कहानी या मनगढ़ंत किस्सा होती है. Now imagine, I put forwarded this question to Dr. Ishtiaq that whether the stories which you collected through such a hard work by interviewing people on both sides of Red Cliff Line were the myths, were concoctions, or it was happened in reality. So just imagine that the title of your Urdu book, I mean your own book in Urdu. So it shows that the people don't have even grasp on their own subject for which they are advocating, and they are saying that for the practical purposes this should be used. The status quo should prevail in Punjab and Urdu should be continued. So if the literate and very educated people couldn't utilize Urdu appropriately, how it it is quite hilarious that the ordinary people are expected to use it by hook or by crook, because it satisfies the ego of those bourgeoisie and petty bourgeoisie who have been doing this crime intentionally or unintentionally. the mother nature has developed the vocal cord of Punjabis, including this petty bourgeoisie, in a very spontaneous and natural manner. That when they pronounce the Urdu vocabulary, Urdu diction, they are laughed at by the UPITians. Dr. Sahab himself, when recites some poetry of Iqbal or Faiz, he should ponder himself that how he is made butt of joke by the Urdu speakings. So the vocal cord, which is scientifically developed to speak Urdu Punjabi, can't be changed into a silver tongue speaking tool overnight in terms of history. So this is I mean a scientific reasoning which I am putting forward, and these facts and figures clearly show that this Urdu can't be, and this Urdu, I mean the enforcement of Urdu and support of this Punjabi bourgeoisie, petty bourgeoisie, is impracticable, and it is unscientific, and it shouldn't be there, by keeping in view the constitutional demands and the other measures which I have already mentioned. I would like to quote another event which was reported in the media and press as well, that Urdu, as it was enforceably declared as the national language of Pakistani Federation, hasn't been introduced in the government offices due to certain reasons. One of those reasons was narrated in an article where it was told that a circular, when the Supreme Court ordered that Urdu should be used in all correspondences, so official correspondences, so they circulated a letter with the title of circular. They translated it into Gashti Murasla. So the very circular with the title of Gashti Murasla, when was circulated among the different offices, people, they made it became a fun for the natives of Punjab and KPK and other regions, because Gashti Murasla Gashti is completely a derogatory term, which is used for the the prostitutes who are considered as the public property. So they are considered as sex workers who visit door to door to find business, to search business. So the ones who make such gasht or visits are named as Gashti by the natives in Punjab, and particularly in the regions of Punjab annexed with KPK in 1901, besides Kashmir and the regions in Sindh and Balochistan, wherever Punjabi has got influenced and is spoken with multiple labels like Hindko, Saraiki, Pahadi, Khetrani, etc. And if we see the practicality of Urdu as an official language, even a person who is very good at Urdu can't get the job of a naib qasid or dispatch rider in any government office, because English is in fact used everywhere. So this is one of those ground realities, irrefutable ground realities, which one cannot overlook. And the reason is very simple and obvious, that despite all the state patronage, this Dud language, which was originated at the red light areas of Lucknow by the troops of Persho Turkic and Afghan army with the amalgamation of Hindustani women, can't have the space in the native society of this federation, where they have their own centuries old languages and cultures. And insistence upon its enforcement in the offices and at educational institution has already proved catastrophic, and it would again be devastating if the status quo is supported by the such gentlemen, because all the political parties based in other three provinces, they have repeatedly expressed their resentment against the hegemonies of this dirt language. And that is why I always say that the support of this language is merely for the political purpose. It only serves the political purpose of the ruling elite. And all the studies and the events happened in past to date, it has been proved that for all the practical purposes, mother tongues, at least at primary levels, as medium of instruction and as a compulsory literature subject up to graduation. And the introduction of English to teach science and humanities subjects would be much more beneficial for this federation, as it is beneficial for the Perso-Turkic Afghan progeny based in UPCP to seek education in their mother tongue Hindustani, or one may call it Hindi or Urdu. And it would be unjust from UPCP kids to learn education in Tamil, Bengali, Punjabi, Sindhi, Pashto, or some other constituent entities language. Hence, expecting from a Bengali, Tamil, Punjabi, Sindhi, Baloch, Pashtun kid to start thinking in Urdu or Hindi is simply a crime, particularly when the states are busy in getting those kids to abandon their mother tongues. And in order to keep all the kids of the constituent entities deprived from their fundamental human rights of seeking education in their mother tongue, both Indian and Pakistani establishments have been embarked upon a dirtiest trick of divide and rule, which they inherited from their British masters, as they have been inciting the pluralistic ethnic and linguistic segments of all historical states or provinces, just to consolidate and linger on their hegemony. So, any of a secretary statement, as Dr. Ishtiaq argued that Saraiki was the lingua franca prior to Urdu, can't downplay Punjabi, because those non-Punjabis who interacted with Punjabis while doing trade or visiting Punjab for multiple purposes, they used Punjabi in their own way, and that turned into a dialect. The very dialect which was used by the Khwaja Ghulam Farid and the other renowned writers like Lutf Ali Bahulpuri, Haider Multani, and multiple others. They eulogized Punjab. They expressed their extreme love for Punjab and Punjabi. So how could some exploiters on the hem of affair of state arbitrarily decide that this is a separate language? So by painting some dialects of Punjabi, they overnightly declare without consulting linguists and even the masses. So they decided and they introduced it as separate language. So everybody knows that this is an open secret for all of us, that state wants to undermine and crush the genuine nation's question for their fundamental rights by annihilating all. So the Punjab is a sitting duck for them. So they did this crime in this. They started this crime in 60s, and then in during the time of Zia, and later on the whole social fabric of Punjab, the harmonized social fabric of Punjab, was attempted to have been chopped off by the very dearest UPITians of 90 of our Dr. Ishtiaq Saab, who want to set a conundrum among all the constituent national entities of this federation, eventually to make them agree on their Mutala Pakistani sort of notions, dogmas, or pseudo-nation which they want to create in a very absurd manner. Exactly in the same fashion, when in 1947 these despicable UPITians got Britishers to cut the land of 5 rivers into 2 under the pretext of religion. And prior to that, they had already got the Britishers to chop down Kashmir, Delhi, and northwestern regions like Peshawar, Hazara, Kohat, Bannu, Tang, Diyai Khan from Punjab. And after 47, these UPITians through Indian establishment divided the Charda Punjab into 3 like Haryana, Punjab, and Himachal Pradesh. Now, when it is established that the UPITian-led Pakistani establishment has miserably failed to bridle the Sindhi, Baloch, and Pashtun national questions, so they know very well that with the loose control over the propaganda and the awareness, emerging awareness among Punjabis, would finally challenge their monopoly. That is why, with the help of these landlords and capitalists and the industrialists, they want to divide Punjab in a desperation, so that they may not only control the Punjabi proletariat by dividing it into ethnic, linguistic, and sectarian grounds, but also they may control other three constituent national entities from center, where the parity prevails in Senate, and multiple Punjabs with different names would have an unbeatable dominance on all. So this is the crux which every Punjabi academician should try to understand and take a similar honest stance which their fraternity in other provinces take against this by supporting their mother tongue in their own provinces and opposing the any type of division under any pretext of their provinces as well. Any scientific mind would badly demand the conservation of nature, specifically in the age of globalization. So, if a greedy mafia wants to paint every color of this federation with UPITN brush, a honest soul with scientific approach would oppose it and condemn it in the possible best terms. At the same time, those who believe the religion Islam to be a religion according to nature, in accordance with nature, know that Islam supports diversity as well. Salman Farsi, Sohaib Rumi, Bilal Habshi were not demanded to abandon their identities, language, in terms of language and cultures. And this Islamic permissibility actually integrates all the nations, their languages, cultures into a single group of humanity in terms of Ummah or whatsoever one may call by. And above all, Pakistan is a solely declared Islamic state. And we being Muslim, if literally have faith in Quran and Sunnah, then we must go through the Quranic text and see that there are multiple commandments which explicitly declare all the languages as one of the signs of Almighty Allah. Similarly, when we study the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find that he was handed over to an Arab gypsy lady, Dai Halima, who took him with her livestock in the rural remote region of Arabian Peninsula, where they would interact with Mother Nature, having no impurities whatsoever. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam grew in a pure environment, and when later on he was commanded to commence the mission to spread Islam, he, unlike the scholars of Punjab like Iqbal, Faiz, and the contemporary ulama Kram, started and invited the Arabs in his own language. And whenever Muhammad would invite a particular tribe from a specific region of Arab, he would try his utmost to address them in their own dialect. Being a teacher, one could easily understand that when the kids or the people are addressed in their own language, they pay more heed towards the speaker, and the message could be transmitted very easily. At the same time, the kids could absorb the concepts just because the language already runs in their blood. But as I mentioned earlier, that here in Punjab, all the scholars from Iqbal, Faiz, from right or left, or the contemporary ulama Krams from any sect, they are trapped by the UPITians, and they are not following Quranic commandments and the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whenever they address to Punjabis, even in the villages, they mostly use Urdu instead of Punjabi. But at the same time, the ulama Kram of other provinces and rest of the world, they use the local languages. So is the case of the people associated with the other fields, and they are doing the same blunders in Punjab. As the rascals in the saddles, I have been driving the commoners in Punjab by using the state tools like media, education, and multiple other mediums. So it is the moral, ethical, Islamic, human duty of every soul to stand against this practice, and particularly the ulama karam, they must come up and they follow the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in accordance with the Quranic injunctions. So that's all. That's it. I have presented my views purely in with the help of with the support of historical facts and ground realities. And in the end, I would say that the sages around the world, I mean, all the anthropologists, educationists, all the political scientists, social scientists, I mean, every soul who attained the topmost position in his own field, they are unanimously agreed that a kid should be taught in his or in her own mother tongue. A kid could only be a creative soul if is imparted education in his or her mother tongue. And it is quite astonishing that a gentleman like Dr. Ishtiaq Saab obdurately wants to adhere with the with his own notions, rather dogmas, and by completely negating all the facts and figures, all the historical facts, all the scientific reasonings, and this is providing space for the exploiters on the hem of affairs to carry on their exploitations. Why not letting the masses of Punjab think freely? So I would again expect from Dr. Ishtiaq and other souls in Punjab that they would revisit, they would revamp their ideas, and they would rather support the principal demand of Punjabis, and as well as this sport would not only bridge the gulf among the masses of Punjab with other nations, but also integrate them into a peaceful and prosperous neighbors of this federation. Let me finish my today's talk with this fabulous saying of a Kurdish intellectual that if the foundations of this Pakistani state tremble with the introduction of our mother tongues, particularly the mother tongues of Punjabis, then it clearly reflects that they have established their de facto state on our necks, our land, and our soil. Thank you.